I think Justin should go back to calf kicks. Ilia's front foot heavy because he loves the box. And I think if Justin goes back to them damaging, smashing leg kicks, he can really turn this fight into something else that people won't realize. During my fight against Justin, this is all I knew. I had to do as much damage I could do before he kills my leg and I can't stand anymore. I knew that going into the fight. At some point, I wasn't going to be able to stand. He has to go back to that. He has to go back to that hole. No matter what changes go on, he has to smash that leg. He has to continually smash that lead leg and make sure at some point that becomes a factor where we see Ilia start switching to southpaw.
Gaethje has a crazy low kick. He even kind of buckled Khabib. Even though Khabib, I talked to him about it, he's like, nah, the low kicks didn't do much to me. But I rewatched that fight actually recently. I was watching the fight highlights and stuff like that, and those kicks were brutal, man. And Gaethje's a hard kicker. Okay, we've seen him brutalize many fighters in UFC.
You look at Justin Gaethje though, right? Like the things that he does well, if you say, I'm going to take Justin Gaethje, the tailor-made things that he does well, calf kicks, leg kicks, and the big uppercut, that feeds right into how he can beat Ilia Topuria. People are overlooking that. They're like, oh, well, the technique, the boxing, the defense, the power of Ilia Topuria. But I'm like, man, Gaethje, 2 or 3 leg kicks, that could change the game on how that Topuria boxes.
Oh, man, I think he should. I think he should. He's going to be the bigger man. We haven't seen Ilia, his lead leg really punish that much. Justin does kick very hard. I think it's a 5-round fight, so I do think if you start chipping away early. The thing is, though, Justin has a bad tendency of throwing kicks naked. He doesn't set them up. And against a sharp puncher like Ilia, that can get you in trouble. You can run into a counter punch or something. I think if Justin sets them up, he'll have success with them.
What makes Justin Gaethje lethal with his hands is him breaking the foundation of getting kicked. Of kicking. He just didn't bring it out as much, and that's one of the big keys against a guy like Ilia that he's gonna have to pull out.
Topuria and his brother both have showed they're a little suspect when they get leg kicked. You take away some of their power and their ability to sit down on their shots. If you take away that early in a 5-round fight, it can start to pay dividends as the fight goes on.
That's going to be a tough fight, but Gaethje does have the power that could change a fight at any time, and technicality really could go out the window because there's no question that Ilia is just on a whole different level when it comes to just as far as being a technical fighter, having balance on his feet as a boxer.
Justin Gaethje has a lot of offense, very aggressive, but he will still try and put himself in defensive positions. He will shell up. You'll see him sometimes get into a big shell, which I think I've seen some people bring up and be like, this is a big problem. It can be a big problem. But for Ilia's going to be a big problem if you are trying to pressure fire shots and leaving your chin out there for him to just counter and put one on you. If Justin Gaethje is getting in a position like doing a big kick and then being very defensive and shielding right up, does that leave very easy open doors for Ilia? No, not really.
I think for Justin does this hard cover, and he can't do that. He cannot hard cover. He has to punch with Ilia. When Ilia goes to exchange, Justin has to go in. He has to take that risk. That's a risk that both guys are going to have to take in order to win and score a knockout here. Justin can't hard cover or decide he's going to outmove Ilia and keep angles. It's just not going to happen. They're both going to have to tee on tee, throw on throw. When Ilia goes, Justin's going to have to go with him.
I was incredibly confident that Rafael Fiziev would just be a better striker than Justin Gaethje, and they have fought for 30 minutes, and mostly Gaethje's tuned him up. Gaethje has tools on the feet, and the gap there, I think, is the athleticism, the age is certainly enough. But like, I at least have some level of interest in seeing how that shakes out, because Gaethje has historically proven me wrong, specifically with fights. And this is a million years old and you shouldn't put too much stock into it. But if Jai Herbert can buzz you, I strongly suspect Justin Gaethje at least has the potential to do that.
If you look at like Topuria's fights, I think people remember the end of them and sort of remember them as this like crazy one-way traffic, and the Oliveira one maybe was, but Holloway had success on the feet against him. Volkanovski actually had success on the feet against him. So it's not like he's just this crazy undefeatable guy. He's just got this unbelievable power. So I think like if Gaethje goes out there and makes it a car crash, you know, we've not really seen Ilia's chin be tested that hard. You never know if Gaethje fucking lands on him. Maybe it's strong enough.
No, I completely agree. I think you just have to come up with some different things. The fight that he had with the British kid, where you know he got hit with the head kick, Jai Herbert. You know, there's some flaws there, and I've seen Topuria get head kicked in some of those areas. So yeah, I think with Trevor Whitman and Gaethje and those guys, they're going to come up with a good game plan and make it competitive.
I think the Topuria camp certainly understands that Justin could produce a moment. Yeah, were he to outpoint him, you know, 49-46 over 5, that would be something. But the notion that Gaethje can't fucking find a knockout button in the first 10 minutes, y'all are fucking crazy.
This fight, I think Justin's gonna have to go back to the wrestling style. I think he needs to switch it all up, come back with a different version of himself. If this is your last fight, make it the college wrestling Justin and change it all up for us.
By the way, to say that he wrestled a lot is a bit of an understatement. Justin Gaethje is a very, very experienced wrestler and had a really good college career. In fact, in Arizona State University, there's a huge plaque on the wall. No, sorry, in the arena. There's a massive plaque. He's in the Wrestling Hall of Fame there. So the man can wrestle, but he just doesn't choose to do it in his fights, which is kind of crazy, to be honest, because it is mixed martial arts.
Dude, if you're boxing for 30 seconds, you're doing it wrong. I want the crowd booing in the middle of round 1 because you are clinching. This is a Greco-Roman match. I want no space between your chest and his chest, and that I want the crowd throwing stuff into the octagon at the end of round 1 because it's true. The dynamic energy that Ilia Topuria has is snapping and crisp and tight. Wrestling is everything else. It's a wet blanket on you. Your muscles start burning. You're slowed down. You're slogging, so that at the start of round 2, your arms feel like lead, and you just don't have that crispness that you had before.
Why has all my fights, except the ones that I've lost, not gone to the ground?
Defensive wrestling. Yeah,
I mean, more than half of wrestling is stopping them from taking me down. I've used that. That's what I was the best at when I was a wrestler. It was very hard to score on, very, very stubborn, if you can't tell. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm stubborn with position.
Yeah.
And it's just exhausting.
Yeah.
But I promise you, since Oliveira subbed me, I have been working thoroughly. I could have subbed Patty. I just didn't want to take any chances. But I could have subbed Patty, 100%.
Justin Gaethje can wrestle, and he hasn't been taken down much in his career either. There's footage of him out there training, of course, with the great Trevor Whitman, and he's training with the likes of Kamaru Usman, and there's footage of him out there this week, and he says he's not going to wrestle, but he's training wrestling in his camp, okay? So is he going to change up? Is he going to try and surprise Ilia Topuria by just throwing in a little sneaky double leg takedown in there?
I think maybe in the clinch might be a good place for Gaethje to try to get something done. You know, he has this great like kind of collar tie hockey fighting style that he can mix in there. You know, make it kind of dirty, make it kind of rough. And I was listening to you guys, you know, earlier where it's like, hey, just throw the whole kitchen sink on him. You know, make it like not X's and O's, just make it a brawl. And I think I'm with you, Kenny. I think just that full mentality is wrong. But I think there's aspects to that makes sense. You just kind of maximize certain gray areas.
So I don't want half guard, I don't want side control, I don't want to take their back. I'm going to stay 50-50 positions, hanging on their head, landing big shots, and they're going to wonder why I'm not moving to any other positions. That's how I fight. That's how I will fight. And hopefully I get them into that position.
For me, if I'm fighting Topuria, you have to keep his backhand active, by meaning you have to be able to jam that with the kicks. So if I'm on the Gaethje side of things, I'm looking to kick a lot. I'm looking to same side. I'm looking to exit with it, those condit rolls to keep his right hand busy. How do you keep it jammed? You got to kick that thing.
Ilia is always going to focus on getting to the right spot and fighting his opponents. When he gets there, he's going to unload If Ilia can't get there, then he's going to figure out another way to get there. So the question is, how does everybody avoid that sweet spot against Ilia? That's the question, because Ilia is going to fight in a 25-minute fight. That's what it comes down to.
I think, to be honest with you, to beat Ilia, you do have to push him back, though. I understand. I would want him to do it in a more measured way, avoid the uppercuts better, the knees and stuff like that. But you think you're going to beat Ilia, moving back? I think the best guy who could do that is Max with his great footwork. And Ilia was able to find those low kicks and take out the footwork of Max Holloway and find the finish. So it's not a bad idea for Justin to think about pressuring Ilia, as long as he can keep himself safe from the power that's going to come down from Ilia, man. And that guy sure has power.
I will move forward this fight. I've told you before. You said it during my last fight. I do believe that you have to move forward, and if that puts me into more dangerous positions, then I have to do that still. And this is how I will fight this fight.
I think you need to take him at his word, which is he's going to want to try and back Ilia up. Yeah, I think it's one of those situations where, I mean, if you're getting backed up by Ilia, especially with how good he is in setting up second wave attacks, pressuring you backwards and like using that to funnel you directionally or to orient himself around you, that seems like a sketchy formula for winning. But if you can really bear down on him, of course, it also would be that your down blocking and your defensive wrestling would need to be on point. But yeah, pressure. Pressure is going to work a lot in MMA because there's the way in which it constrains your defense is so overwhelming. You just can't move except laterally. And that itself can be very, very, very perilous too. Like, it just takes your defense from so many possibilities to sometimes two, to sometimes even just one. And for that reason, it just makes guys a lot more hittable.
I think that it comes down to Gaethje really managing his aggression with his intelligence. I think that's really what it comes down to here. So there's certain guys, and people are like, well, obviously, Kenny. Well, not so obviously. Ilia Topuria is not a guy that you just approach recklessly. And for some people, I've been hearing the fact that, like, yeah, Gaethje just needs to go out there and start brawling and just see if he can, roll the dice and land a big one. And you're like, I don't know if that's really the approach against someone who is as highly skilled as Ilia Topuria. I don't think it's a matter of, Gaethje going out there and just creating chaos. I think it needs to be very, very calculated, and he needs to be very careful with how he enters and how he exits.
That's always his style. He wants to go forward. He wants to be the aggressor. He wants to turn it into a dogfight. Of course, that would have been the game plan against Max Holloway. And I'm in no way talking shit at all. I'm a big fan of Justin Gaethje. The career that he had has been phenomenal. Some of the knockouts that he's given us have been phenomenal. That head kick knockout over Dustin Poirier, then he jumps off the top of the octagon, does the backflip and all that stuff. If he can pull it off, if he can do that at the White House in the main event, America's going to go crazy.
But if there's a human being on this planet that you do not doubt, it's Justin Gaethje, especially under these circumstances. The American fighters on the White House card would seem to be up against it. Most of them are in fights that are very difficult matchups for them. But with the White House as a backdrop, with the pride that these fighters will walk to that octagon with, I expect the American fighters to perform much better than the general public does because of all those factors.
I have no emotions anymore in my life, so no, I felt nothing. I was sitting in when Yuri got knocked out by Oldberg. That happened, and I felt nothing. This sport has changed my life. I don't have emotions anymore.
You know what he told me? One time he told me, I said, "What do you feel when you're walking out there?" He goes, "Absolutely nothing." He goes, "I am completely still. No nerves, no fear, no emotions, nothing." That's why Justin Gaethje is who he is.
Yeah. Justin needs to make it ugly, because he's he's able to do that. When he fought Dustin Poirier, Dustin has very good boxing. It's visually, visually looks very good, and Justin Gaethje somehow is able to make it look ugly. So I think he needs to do that. He needs to get in there and make it look ugly when he fights. Everybody he fights. Michael Johnson has beautiful striking, and then when he fought Justin Gaethje, just looked messy.
When he fought Michael Johnson in his UFC debut, he just threw himself at Michael Johnson. And he did the same thing with Paddy Pimblett.
Yeah.
The Paddy Pimblett fight, he could have fought that fight a lot cleaner.
Yep.
And he just said, fuck you. I'm just going to walk you down and just blast you every chance I get and break you up. And that's what he did. And he's a fucking scary dude, man. Justin's a scary dude. When he's on, and this is the last dance, right? So you know that he's going to be hyper-focused for this fight.
Yeah, it's a tough one for Gaethje. You know, everyone's gonna. I mean, Gaethje's my boy, but also I've been watching that dude fight for a really long time, and you can't ever count Gaethje out. I heard him say one time on an interview that he's like 8-3 when he's been the underdog or something, or some like crazy statistic like that. So people, you know, they say whatever they say about his technique and how Gaethje fights and all of that stuff, but fighting's kind of a different animal. Especially when you have someone that hits so hard in front of you and has the spirit that Gaethje has. So, and Gaethje's really technical in his own way too. I know that like people kind of say whatever they want to say about that, but Gaethje, there is like a method to his madness.
You see me fight so many times. You see me fight 10 different fights. I can be 10 different fighters, and this sport is about matchups. And so obviously I'm not going to fight the same fight that I fought against Fiziev, against Paddy Pimblett, but I do possess the skills to fight 10 different fights. And so this is a very specific, very particular fight, more boxing heavy, very different than my other 2 championship fights where I was fighting, you know, grappler heavy fighters.
Yeah. Oh, it's a fight for sure. For sure, you never know. Like one punch, you're dead. So that's why, like, there is a chance, like a lucky punch, but Ilia, he fights so smart. He's not gonna be open, and he fights like he compact, you know, like he never like opens so much, and like I don't see how Gaethje can beat him, but never know. Gaethje sometimes go and show up like good fights, like he did with Petty.
What do you think Gaethje should do, though, if everyone's saying it's a bad matchup? Like, should he just make it a brawl, make it messy, just old Gaethje?
He should pull out and give it to me. That's the best game plan for him.
I mean, I think Gaethje's live, right? And I'm calling the fight, so I can't say much more than that, right? But just because Arman Tsarukyan in MMA theory would have more ways to beat Ilia Topuria doesn't mean that he would. The reason why we're all captivated by this sport, and we show up here every Monday and all we want to do is talk about it, is because it's the greatest unpredictable theater in live sport.